Chris, we've been together for 13 years in our relationship. And I think one of the most fundamental lessons that we have learned so far is, what would you say?
I would say trust, growth, patience, responsibilities, accountability.
Accountability, which comes back to the fact that love is a choice,
Love is a choice.
not just a feeling.
It starts with a feeling and it ends with a choice.
It ends with a choice, absolutely. So far, I think this was one of our fundamental lessons. I think a lot of us are actually being sold illusions in love and with regards to relationships very often. I hear it a lot also in our generation that people have very high expectations. Where do you think are those expectations actually coming from?
First of all, they started, I think, when we were young with Disney movies. That's the first thing. Second off was, I think, the whole social media era and Instagram. And
On top of Disney.
On top of Disney.
I think it's a very interesting point regarding the Disney illusion. What exactly would you, I think as a man, maybe let's start there from a masculine and female perspective, what do you think is one of the major illusions that is being sold to men in Disney movies?
So for men in general already, if you look at Disney movies, there aren't really a lot of men characters that are the lead role, except now for Aladdin and things like that, because we don't have like the princess life going on. But when we
Maybe
look
the
at
Lion King.
maybe Lion King, but again,
It's an animal.
It's an animal. Like I'm talking like about the man perspective. Like when we see the most Disney movies, we're gonna see women struggle, but they work hard in the sense of they household chores. They all know how to clean, cook, this whole thing. They are submissive in some kind of way and devoted, and they all look beautiful all the time. That's like the main emphasis that men get put into when they look at Disney movies, like with women in general. That's like how I perceive how we are getting sold this whole story, is that women have to be available at every time, every moment, and just look beautiful.
Yeah, so it's kind of very shallow and superficial.
Yeah, you don't get really the perspective of having a relationship. You just get the perspective of how it's supposed to look, how the woman is supposed to look. It's like more of an object perspective than more of a like deep emotional situation.
From the female perspective, it's very interesting because, like, at least how I perceive it, is a lot of women who are in a helpless situation. They need rescue. Very often you have this princess who's simply just asleep, and then there's a random man who comes up and kisses her and just chooses her. Or maybe she needs to get rescued, like for instance in Cinderella, she needs a rescue out of her horrible poverty situation and the abuse that she's suffering from her stepmom and her stepsisters, and then she needs this rescue. Or very often in general, in all of those fairy tales in general, you have this idea of the woman suffering, being in a very vulnerable situation, and then this man pops up out of the blue and he's just this rescue figure in general. And I personally, first of all, think it's very patronizing as a woman, and I think it's really not adapted to the reality of a woman living in 2026. But when you get this ideology hammered into your brain from childhood on, it does something to your brain. And in the end, as a woman, often there is this perception that, okay, if I can't make it alone, then I might have a partner who can help me out of it.
I think it's interesting because what I think it is that women get sold the idea that a man is going to come and rescue them at some point and is going to provide endlessly, which would probably be possible back in the days, like when money and everything was different, for sure. But now it has become something that's not realistic for 2026, if we are honest.
For a lot of relationships.
And on the other hand, there's also the whole, and now we go into different categories, like the whole social media thing that is going to sell you a different story completely. So nowadays, women, first of all, they wait that a man come to rescue them, like the princess approach, like we have it in the Disney movies. But because of social media and because of this fast life, fast money, and all this thing that comes with it, women expect men to pay things that are not affordable
or let's
anymore,
say provide.
or provide for things that are not realistic anymore. And also men at the same time, because they see so many women that also try to be independent, boss women and all that
Very
new,
beautiful, very dolled up.
voila, new age way of thinking, a new age way of doing things. I think it shifts the way how men and women see each other and interact with each other. And
Let's not forget that social media in general is a curated and very acted version of a relationship. You only present the best of yourselves. You never show a fight. You are always in a perfect condition. And it's actually selling the exact same illusion that Disney has sold us, because basically nothing has changed.
it's the happy ever after.
It's
like
the happy ever after. We have this perfect relationship.
Exactly.
We have this perfect marriage. We have this perfect lifestyle. We have the perfect kids, which is exactly the same approach, which proves that this has been hammered into our subconscious, and that this is how a relationship is supposed to be.
And I think it also brings the fact that if the relationship doesn't look like Disney or doesn't look like how Instagram shows it to you, then the relationship is no relationship, or it's not worth being in that relationship. Because
so this illusion is so strong that once the reality shatters the illusion, it's simply not real, because the illusion, the lie that we've been sold to, cannot be upheld.
Because it's not reality. Reality of a relationship and of love in general is not Disney movies, and it's not Instagram.
Because let's revert back to, I think, the female expectation. And again, it's just my personal perception, but I guess a lot of women would agree with what I'm saying. Maybe a lot won't. But in general, I believe it's this helplessness, this female helplessness that's being sold to us in Disney. And this has a huge impact on the female brain, because you think, okay, if I don't manage, there is going to be a rescuer, there's going to be a savior in the end. And then later on, you grow up with this whole independent mindset, which is a pure contradiction to what you've learned as a child. Plus, on top of it, let's not forget the personal traumas. So the different layers, like for instance, your parents are divorced, separated, then you see mom being in a helpless situation, or maybe dad being in a helpless situation, whereas there is no rescuer. And then you have this person who from the beginning on was in a vulnerable situation, which is the female that you're being sold to. Then this rescuer comes in his perfect, whatever, let's say on his white horse, he comes in and he just rescues you.
Always a rich prince.
He's always a rich prince. He always helps you, and he always takes you out of it. That's the idea that's being sold. So in the female mind, you have this ideology of someone in the end is going to come and save me.
I want to add up to that, because now I realize it's always a financial thing. Because even if you look at the only male perspective that we have is Aladdin, and Aladdin married a princess that had everything.
Aladdin
is a poor guy that married the rich
princess.
The rich princess. And then if you look at the other way around, it's always a poor girl that marries a rich prince. So we get sold this idea that the perfect relationship has to do with financial stability.
And one person being the weaker financial player that needs rescue, and the other person being the stronger financial player who can rescue them. So in the end, the partnership, the idea of partnership, is being sold as a rescue project.
As a rescue project, and you can only be rescued if the only other person has money. There is no relationship that is built. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just reflecting right now.
Try to find a movie where it's maybe.
I'm trying to find a Disney story.
The only one that I can think of is Bernard and Bianca. Bernard and Bianca.
Yeah, but Bernard and Bianca are not really in an official relationship.
It's not a real relationship.
They are in a business partnership.
It's a business partnership.
And they're going to rescue Penny. I think
they go rescue Penny. But
yeah, but you're right. You're absolutely right with what you're saying. And let's keep one thing firmly in mind. It's the fact that every single Disney movie ends with the start.
It ends with the start.
In the sense that you see this whole chasing pattern, you know, like the man rescuing the woman, saving her, and then they live happily ever after, dot. And so you're just being told that all you need is to fall in love or all you need is someone to rescue you,
Mhm.
and then you have a relationship, which is completely wrong because they sell you a feeling. And
Mhm.
a feeling is nothing but a sensation in
Mhm.
the end. It's a physical, emotional sensation that rushes through your brain and your body.
Mhm.
In the end, it's a chemical hormone cocktail.
Exactly.
And so you're being sold a chemical hormone cocktail. Same on social media, a dopamine kick.
Exactly.
You get a dopamine kick.
Mhm.
But the reality, nobody shows you the reality. Like, how many movies are actually starting in general? If you look at the Hollywood movies,
Mhm.
how many movies are starting with, in plain sight, a relationship that has been established for a long time, that's maybe in a routine? I haven't seen that many. I mean, there are some.
I think if we have to stay now in the same playing field as Disney movies and everything, I would say the only movie I can think of that goes in the same direction would be Shrek. Shrek is the only movie where
True.
I see Shrek, ogre, go and rescue the princess Fiona. Then we don't have the live happily ever after. We have they get kids. They have their relationship. It's messy. It's hard. It's not fun. And if you look at Shrek, it's not really something that's made for kids. It's like more for adults already because what they're speaking inside of it of that particular movie is kind of hard things
To
already
grasp,
to
yeah.
grasp, and it's already very deep for
But it's
children.
very interesting what you're saying because Shrek is actually showing a partnership, like you say, and also the ugly part. Like
And
you're not the beautiful person anymore. You become this ugly person. Like Fiona
she
transforms
turns into a
an
Shrek,
ogre.
into an ogre.
So
Exactly.
but then Shrek can actually identify with her, and I think it represents the shadows. Whereas a lot, and I think that's the illusion that a lot of people are being sold to, is that they don't want to face the reality of the shadow,
And Shrek
the
also,
dark
yeah,
sides.
because Shrek also changes into a human at one point, and Fiona tells him she doesn't love him as a human. She wants him to turn back as the ogre. So again, it shows that love
Has
has
expectations
expectations, but
based on
based on
illusions.
illusion. But she chose to love the ogre, the good and the bad in him, not just the beauty.
True.
And he chose to love also the good and the bad in her. That's why she
Absolutely.
reverted to an ogre and not staying a beautiful princess. And that's probably the only relationship I can think of, and that's not even from Disney, but where you have this look into what's inside and not just the outside, where you have to put in the work, where you see them struggle with their relationship, where you see he has some expectations that she cannot meet, and she has some for him that he cannot
Which is
forcefully
the
meet.
right opposite of what if you think about what the fairy tales are selling us, or Disney, is that this is not rescue. This is both of us trying to get out of it together, trying to rescue each other and ourselves. So this already relates much more to what a real partnership actually really is.
And they choose each other at the end.
They choose each other in the end, which is not necessarily the case. I mean, it is the case if a prince shows up and he chooses you and you choose him back by kissing him, but that's only the beginning of a relationship.
I mean, Snow White didn't really choose. The prince came, she was asleep, he gave her a kiss, and he took her with on the horse.
Absolutely, that was weird.
There was no
very
choice in that. Same for Cinderella. I mean, not Cinderella, the Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping.
It's not really a choice. Like
It's like the woman being again carried away, and that reverts back to, I think, that illusion of feelings as well. Being carried away, I think, is the right expression, because literally, and I think a lot of us females are being sold this illusion of high passion, high devotion, a guy who does everything for you constantly, consistently, who rescues you, who finances you, who shows up with passion and love and devotion, and only has eyes for you. Like, if you think about it, in every Disney movie, there is no other princess being a competition. Doesn't even exist, that reality. There's only her, and he's completely devoted to her. So it creates a very high, big list of expectations, I think, at least from the female perspective, but also from the masculine perspective, of what a man is supposed to do and how a man is supposed to be in a relationship. Whereas if the reality, daily life hits, and if chores are showing up, and if responsibilities are showing up, and trauma and response mechanisms to trauma, and you just wait for someone to rescue you, all Disney teaches you, at least from the female perspective, is you don't need to take any responsibility. The guy is going to do it all for you.
That's it. I think so too.
And he is the responsible one for the passion, for the devotion, for the romanticism, for the financial part. That's what actually is being sold to us girls.
Yeah, well, girls are being sold the illusion that, well, not an illusion. I think it's more that girls are being sold the fact that they need to be submissive to a man that's going to provide for them and take care of them.
I guess that's
That's like
also a lot the masculine perception.
because I think that all these movies are made by men for women. I don't think because I think if women would have written these movies, written these movies would have been a whole different thing. I think that men provide a certain image, the patriarchy in which we live in
patriarchy
is built in a way that men create this whole environment.
On top of it, let's be honest, this is already there in those old fairy tales. There's a heavy capitalistic influence. Mm-hmm. Very heavy, again, which relates back to the topic of money expectations, financial expectations. And again, we grew up with those images in our head. Mm-hmm. I want to be chosen. I want to be taken care of. I need someone who's consistently devoted and romantic, sexually completely involved, only has eyes for me. And again, the movie stops where the relationship actually starts. Mm-hmm. And then it just ends with, and they've lived happily ever after. Now, let's be honest, what is happily and what is ever after?
What is that?
Because after what? After the beginning?
Because the problem is, they don't show the work that it takes for the happily ever after. Absolutely. And it's not going to be happily ever after. No. It's going to be work. It's going to be a long time of work. It's going to be a long time of getting to really know each other on different levels, because once you get into a relationship, you come
past the feelings.
You come first with all these bubbly feelings, with all this passion, love, and lovey-dovey thing. And then at one point,
reality
hits. Like, you're not going to look past all these little things that disturb you by the other person. Then it's going to become a choice. Can you live with that?
Can you accept that?
Can you work on yourself to be able to please the other person more? Can the other person work on themselves, like, to please you more? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a constant work on yourself to be able to manage this relationship.
What I also think is very interesting is the fact that if you look at it, it's always quite rapid in those Disney movies, mm-hmm. in the sense that there's this guy popping up all of a sudden and he's going to rescue you from whatever situation in a minute. And I think the speed of it is also completely unrealistic, because if you think about it, the speed of it is completely unrealistic, and there's no lesson behind any shared values, because you don't know the person in the movie. Mm-hmm. She doesn't really know him and he doesn't really know her. They just have huge feelings for each other. There's a lot of passion, mm-hmm. and this is where it starts and stops. And I think we enter into a relationship with this huge expectation of huge passion, huge feelings, and we all think it's going to be lasting happily ever after. And like you said, once you are confronted with realities, mm-hmm. with shadow work, and once you realize we don't have the same values, once you realize actually we are already now evolving and changing, you don't have a reference. You Exactly. Don't have a reference to look up to, unless you were one of those few lucky people here on Earth whose parents were together happily ever after.
Let's be honest. We don't have a lot of examples like that. In general. There are a lot.
But for most people, most commoners on this planet, the reality is that parents divorced. Mm-hmm. At least in the year 2026, that their parents separated. I mean, there's always people whose mm-hmm. parents are really happily married, mm-hmm. but they have learned from childhood on that mom and dad are consciously choosing each other. They're navigating their relationship, they're navigating their choices, they're navigating their consequences, they're navigating their evolutions, they discuss if there are discrepancies in values. Mm-hmm. And this, like I said, there is no, in general pop culture, movies, you name it, music, even in the music industry, you always have this R&B guy who dances his heart out in the rain for a woman. And yeah, okay, it's very romantic and it sells because it aspires to the female emotions. And I think that's how they get us also.
It's selling a dream.
It's selling a dream. But what is the dream really composed of?
Well, the dream is one thing. That's the emotional part. Now, the reality is that love is not just a feeling. Love is a choice, and love is work, and love is not easy. love is hard and love hurts, because at the end of the day,
It really does
you're
hurt.
gonna have to find someone who you're ready to be hurt with.
Yeah, but Marley said it.
Bob Marley said it
Everybody's
best.
gonna hurt you. You
Choose
just gonna find the
a person who's
worth
worth being suffering
for.
for. And I think that's the basic of a real relationship.
But again, there is in pop culture in general no physical representation of how this is supposed to look like, of how we're supposed to navigate it. So for me personally, and that's just my perception, is dysfunction is being sold from the beginning on. Because
Yes,
that is a recipe for disaster,
but I
to
also-
sell relationships in such a way.
I also think that if you would tell people what it really takes to have a real relationship, most people won't even dare try it,
And I
because
think that's
it
also
asks growth.
it asks growth. It
asks-
asks accountability, being able to be accountable, being able to look within yourself and, not just blame the other person, but also blame yourself and realize, where have I been in the wrong? What have I done wrong? What have I said wrong? I mean, it takes so much emotional maturity. It is actually, a relationship is self-development on steroids.
Exactly.
It is the conscious choice to do self-development, and through self-development, we both can develop together. And I think that's the problem of an entire generation, or maybe multiple generations already, is that nobody wants to walk this path. Nobody wants to really do true, deep self-development. And I see that in my industry a lot, where, because in the yoga industry or Pilates industry, it's a bit similar, that aestheticism is being sold as wellness. But true wellness or true healing is not beautiful. It's not aesthetic. It is ugly. You're sitting in your corner, you're crying, you're bawling your eyes out. You have physical symptoms showing up. You might be, tummy aches, whatever. There's people who go very far and they have to throw up. I mean, from emotions, from feeling mere emotions. And then also the fact of, taking your responsibility and realizing, okay, it takes two to tango, not just one person. And are we going to clean this mess up? Are we going to own it? Or are we just simply going to drop it and let it be and move on to the next and consume? And this relates back to the topic of capitalism, because this ideology of consumption, of mere, emotional consumption, is very strong. It is something that is being consistently taught to young children, that relationships are to be consumed in high emotional states. And it's not beautiful. The reality of it, it's ugly. It's very ugly. And, also to consciously choose someone with all their darkness, and that they know your entire darkness, they know your most vulnerable secrets, they can use them against you, they might even use them against you, and you still take this courageous choice. Because for me personally, love is courage.
Love is courage.
Love is courage. It's moving past fear.
But again, if you have that in a person, all of the things that you just said, and you have that in one person, and you can live that with that person and grow with that person, then love becomes the most beautiful thing that you can have. Because as a person and as a human, as a soul, as a spirit, you're going to grow to different heights.
But like I said, it's the willingness to go there. That willingness comes with emotional maturity and the willingness to do self-development. And like I told you, the illusion that's being sold to us is so strong that we're not being sold the willingness to invest. We're being sold the willingness
to consume.
To consume.
Willingness to consume and to possess. Consume and possess.
Look at social media with all of those women posting pictures and videos and men liking them and DMing them. It's the same principle. It's like a porn industry.
It's the same thing.
Mere consumption instead of investment. And I think that's really one of the most fundamental lessons.
Yeah. Love is a choice. It's investment. It's courage, like you said. It's being willing to get hurt and all these different things, but it's certainly not just a feeling.
True. That was really mindful. I thank you so much for your trust and vulnerability. And I think we can wrap it up with, it's a conscious choice to be willing to get hurt and suffer. Because that's the value of love.
It is.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome. Thank you.